In the beginning there was nothing. No light, no sound, no motion, only an endless stillness beyond comprehension. Then, in a single blinding instant, everything changed. A flash erupted out of the void, searing across the fabric of what would become space and time. The universe ignited, and with it, the first measurable instant was born. Physicists call it the Planck time, 10 to the power of negative 43 seconds after the Big Bang, the smallest possible unit where time as we know it could even begin to tick. But even this number, so infinitesimally small, raises a question that ripples through every human mind. Can time truly have a beginning, or is it simply a human invention carved out of something infinite? Imagine standing at the shore of existence, watching the first waves of reality crash against the dark unknown. The energy is so dense, so violent, that the laws of physics themselves have no meaning. Space is folding and unfolding faster than light can travel, and in that chaos the concept of before has no home. Before the first second, there was no before. Every attempt to peer earlier collapses, like trying to walk beyond the edge of a map drawn on the fog. Yet the human mind refuses to accept this boundary. We are creatures built to ask what lies beyond the wall, even if that wall is the border of time itself. Cameras fade into the birth of photons, swirling like newborn stars in the embryonic fire. Matter and antimatter annihilate in violent flashes, leaving behind a thin residue, the building blocks of everything to come. Time stretches, and with each heartbeat of the young universe, reality cools just enough for structure to form. In this early chaos, the first moments of order emerge, like notes in a song that has only just learned to play itself. The viewer is left suspended in awe. How could something so intricate rise out of absolute nothingness? But this question hides another, more unsettling one. If time has a beginning, does it also have an end? Can the same mechanism that ignited creation one day wind down into silence? The ancient philosophers imagined time as a wheel, endlessly spinning through cycles of birth and destruction. Modern physics, however, paints a more tragic image, a universe expanding toward emptiness, where clocks eventually stop not because they break, but because there is nothing left to measure. Still, in the flicker between nothing and everything, a strange kind of beauty appears. The first flicker of time was not merely an explosion, it was a transition from potential to presence. It was the birth of cause and effect, of past and future, of the very idea that something could change. It is in that flicker that meaning was born, not from gods or design, but from the raw, indifferent pulse of physics. And yet, as the light expands and fades into the distance, one haunting question lingers. If time began with the universe, what gave birth to the moment itself? Perhaps, somewhere beyond that first flicker, there lies not a beginning, but an endless silence that waits to be named. Before time began, 3 words that defy understanding. They sound poetic, but they are impossible. To speak of before implies that time already existed, that there was a moment prior to the first moment. Yet, according to every known law of physics, that is meaningless. Time did not flow, clocks did not tick, space did not stretch. There was no when for anything to happen. And still, the human imagination cannot help but wander there, to that forbidden edge of existence, asking, what was before all this? Picture absolute nothingness. Not the darkness of night, not the silence of an empty room, because those are still something. This is a void beyond thought, beyond measurement. No space, no matter, no time. Then, from that void, an eruption, an event with no cause we can identify, yet containing everything that ever would be. The universe began not in time, but with time. The birth of the cosmos was the birth of chronology itself, like a movie beginning with its first frame. There was no reel before it, no earlier scene left unplayed. The question of before time has haunted both physicists and philosophers. Stephen Hawking once said that asking what came before the Big Bang is like asking what's north of the North Pole. It simply doesn't exist in the same sense. But our curiosity rebels against that explanation. We crave a cause, a reason, a spark. Could something truly emerge from nothing? Or is nothing simply another word for a reality we cannot yet perceive? The camera sweeps through a visual metaphor, rippling fields of quantum foam, particles flickering in and out of being. Some scientists propose that before the Big Bang, there was no void at all, only a timeless quantum state, a sea of potential waiting to crystallize. In this vision, time itself was born like a frozen lake thawing, flowing outward from a single instant of symmetry breaking. A fluctuation, a tremor, and suddenly reality found direction. Entropy began to climb. Clocks began to tick. Philosophers, however, see a different landscape. They imagine eternity not as an infinite line, but as a single all-encompassing moment, one that contains every possible past and future at once. In that sense, the Big Bang wasn't the start of time, but the unfolding of an eternal now into experience. Time, then, may be the illusion of sequence, a trick played by consciousness to make sense of the infinite. Between these views lies the tension that drives human thought, the need to find order in chaos, beginning in the endless. Religious texts call it creation. Science calls it emergence. Both seek to answer the same riddle: why does anything exist at all? Every frame of the universe's story, from galaxies to consciousness, depends on that first paradoxical moment when nothing became something. As we drift through that mystery, one question echoes louder than the rest. If there truly was a before beyond our reach, could it still exist somewhere, untouched by time's flow? Maybe our universe is only one bloom in an infinite garden of beginnings, each birthing its own timeline, each ending where another begins. And perhaps, just beyond the veil of what we call time, the next dawn of existence already waits, silent and unmeasured, for its chance to begin again. When the chaos of the early universe began to cool, the first patterns emerged. Matter started to cluster, stars ignited, and the cosmos found rhythm. In that rhythm, time took on a new form. It became measurable. The universe was no longer just unfolding, it was keeping track. Every oscillation, every orbit, every flicker of light became a beat in the grand symphony of time. Humanity would one day learn to listen to that music, to divide it into moments, and to build instruments to capture its pulse. This was the birth of clocks, the taming of the invisible river. The first clocks were not machines but shadows and stars. Ancient people looked to the heavens and realized that the sun's path was not random. Its rise and fall gave the world rhythm, its return after darkness promised continuity. The movement of the moon marked cycles, tides, and the mystery of change. To early civilizations, these celestial dances weren't just measurements, they were gods themselves. Time was divine order manifest in the sky, and to measure it was to understand the language of creation. Stone monuments like Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids became giant cosmic calendars, aligning perfectly with solstices and equinoxes, recording eternity in stone. But as humanity's hunger for precision grew, time was no longer a symbol, it became a tool. Water clocks, burning candles, and sundials gave way to gears, pendulums, and atomic oscillations. Each innovation wasn't just a leap in technology, it was a declaration of control. To measure time was to command it, to slice infinity into hours, minutes, seconds. Yet with every improvement came a quiet loss. The more we measured time, the more it measured us. The ticking clock became a metronome for our lives, dividing not just the cosmos but our emotions, our ambitions, our very sense of purpose. Imagine a slow montage, the steady drip of a water clock in Babylon, monks timing prayers by candle flame, Galileo watching a swinging lamp and realizing the law of the pendulum. Then, the hum of atomic clocks, devices so precise they lose less than a second in millions of years. Humanity's pursuit of accuracy became almost religious. We built machines that could tell us not just when to act, but who we are in relation to the universe. A second was no longer a guess, it was the vibration of cesium atoms, pure, absolute cosmic truth. Yet behind this precision lies an unsettling paradox. We think clocks measure time, but in reality they measure change. A pendulum swings, an atom vibrates, light oscillates, and from these rhythms we extract meaning. If nothing moved, nothing changed, could time still exist? Or is time not a flow at all, but an illusion created by motion itself? The question slices through centuries of certainty. Without motion, the universe would freeze into a single, eternal frame, and time would dissolve with it. This realization invites us to see time not as a master, but as a mirror. Every clock we build reflects our deepest fear, that without constant change we cease to exist. From the pulse of our hearts to the rotation of galaxies, all life depends on rhythm. The human heartbeat itself is a clock, echoing the same truth the cosmos revealed at its birth, that time is not just something we observe, it's something we are. As we stand surrounded by ticking machines and synchronized satellites, we must ask, in our attempt to master time, have we instead become enslaved by it? The ancients worshipped it as divine order, and we, their descendants, still bow to its tyranny, though now it comes not from the heavens but from the glowing digits on our wrists. And somewhere, deep in the silence between each tick, the universe continues its steady, indifferent rhythm, a reminder that time was here long before our clocks, and it will outlast every second we dare to count. The universe is not still. It breathes, stretches, and swells like a living thing. From the first explosion of energy, space itself began to expand, an invisible tide pulling galaxies apart, carrying time forward like a current that can never reverse. This cosmic expansion is not motion through space. It is space itself growing, stretching the very fabric of reality. And within that fabric, time was woven, inseparable from its threads. To understand one, we must feel the other, because time and space are not two entities, they are one, a single vast canvas painted by the energy of creation. Imagine looking out at the night sky. Each star, each faint shimmer is not where it seems to be, it is where it was. The light you see began its journey millions, even billions of years ago. You are not seeing the universe as it is, you are looking into its past, gazing backward through time. The further we look, the younger the cosmos becomes, until at the edge of visibility, we meet the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, the cosmic microwave background, the faint echo of creation's first light. In that ancient radiation, time and space whisper their shared origin story. As the universe expanded, it cooled, and with that cooling came structure. Gravity, like an artist's brush, began to shape the chaos, drawing gas into stars, stars into galaxies, galaxies into vast cosmic webs stretching across unimaginable distances. Every flicker of light, every spinning world, became a record of time's passage. Expansion gave direction to existence. It gave the universe a past, a present, and a future. This was the arrow of time made visible, entropy unfolding across billions of years, written in galaxies and dust. But with every moment of expansion, another truth takes hold. As the universe grows, it also grows colder, emptier, and more distant. The galaxies are moving away from one another at accelerating speeds, driven by a mysterious force called dark energy, an unseen hand pushing reality apart. The same expansion that allowed stars to be born will one day tear them away from each other forever. Time, which began as an explosion of creation, is now the quiet march toward isolation. The greater the distance between stars, the slower their clocks tick relative to the whole. Time itself is being stretched, elongated, thinned. Imagine billions of years from now. The stars will die one by one, galaxies will fade, and the night sky will grow dark again. With each passing eon, the universe will become a colder, lonelier place. Entropy will have reached its silent peak, where no motion remains to mark the ticking of any clock. Physicists call it the heat death, the end of all change. In that frozen stillness, time will lose its meaning, because there will be nothing left to measure it against. The arrow of time, once so sharp and relentless, will dissolve into stillness. Yet in this decay lies a strange beauty. The same forces that doomed the cosmos also gave birth to everything we love and understand. The stars that burn, the atoms that pulse, even the thoughts that race through our minds, they are all temporary patterns formed in a universe rushing towards stillness. The tragedy of time's arrow is that it cannot turn back, but the poetry of it is that it ever began at all. And so the expansion continues, a silent, unstoppable breath. Galaxies drift like glowing embers across the void, and somewhere in that vastness, tiny beings look upward, wondering what it all means. They measure, they calculate, they build models, and yet, every discovery brings them back to the same haunting realization. The universe is not merely expanding in space but also in experience. Every second that passes carries us further from the birth of everything, and closer to the moment when time itself may fall silent once again. Time does not only exist in the stars or in the ticking of a clock. It exists inside us, felt, not measured. In the vast universe, time flows according to gravity and light, but within the human mind, it dances to the rhythm of memory, emotion, and perception. This is the illusion within us, the strange truth that our experience of time is not the same as the universe's. It bends, stretches, and distorts depending on what we feel, what we fear, and what we remember. Time outside may be absolute, but inside it is alive. Close your eyes. Remember a moment of joy, a laugh that seemed to last forever, a summer afternoon that never seemed to end. Now recall a moment of pain, a single hour that felt like an eternity. The clock on the wall didn't change its pace, but you did. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain does not experience time uniformly. When we are afraid, time slows down. When we are immersed in love, art, or wonder, it disappears entirely. The brain's chemistry alters its flow, stretching seconds into oceans or collapsing hours into a breath. To our consciousness, time is elastic, shaped not by physics but by feeling. In this invisible theater of the mind, time becomes personal. Memories are not perfect records. They are edits stitched together from fragments, replayed through emotion. Every recall changes them. When we remember, we are not returning to the past, we are rebuilding it. This constant rewriting gives rise to the illusion that time flows through us, when in reality, We are the ones moving through our own layered memories. Our sense of past, present, and future is the story we tell ourselves to make sense of existence. The brain, the ultimate storyteller, gives time its narrative so that life can be understood as a sequence instead of chaos. Contrast this with the physical world. To the universe, every moment simply is. According to relativity, all points in time exist simultaneously, like frames in a film reel. The brain, however, is the projector, lighting up one frame after another to create the illusion of motion. What we call now is merely the latest frame illuminated by consciousness. The past still exists, the future already waits, and the present is just the narrow slit through which our awareness peers. In this sense, time is less a river we float upon, and more a spotlight we shine across an eternal landscape. But if time is perception, then so is identity. The person you were yesterday exists only in memory. The person you will become tomorrow is a thought waiting to take form. Between them lies the ever-changing you of the present, a construct built moment by moment, dissolving as soon as it is formed. To live is to be constantly rewritten by the flow of perception. We are time given consciousness. The illusion deepens when we dream. In dreams, entire lifetimes can unfold in minutes. Reality bends, cause and effect vanish, yet the dreamer accepts it without question. Why? Because the brain does not need real time to create experience. It only needs sequence. The dream is proof that time's flow can be simulated, reconstructed, and controlled entirely within the mind. When we wake, we return to the shared rhythm of the external world, but a part of us remembers how malleable time truly is. Philosophers and mystics have long suspected that time's reality lies not in the universe, but in awareness. The ancient Greeks spoke of kairos, psychological time, as distinct from chronos, mechanical time. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is all that truly exists, and that past and future are illusions created by attachment. Even modern neuroscience supports this. The brain does not perceive reality instantly, it operates with a delay of milliseconds, constantly predicting the next moment before it arrives. We are always living slightly in the past, anticipating the future that our mind constructs before it happens. And yet, in this illusion there is beauty. The fact that time bends within us means that we are not its prisoners but its artists. Every heartbeat, every memory, every breath becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of experience. Time outside may move forward relentlessly, but inside, it can slow, pause, or expand into eternity. The mystery is not that time passes, but that we feel it passing. As the camera fades from the ticking of a clock to the slow movement of a pupil dilating in wonder, one question remains suspended in the silence. If time feels different for every mind, then what is the true time of the universe? Does reality have a single rhythm, or are we each living in our own unique stream, woven together only by perception? Perhaps the illusion within us is not a lie at all, but the only way the universe can truly know itself. There is a rule written into the heart of the universe, a law so simple yet so unstoppable that it defines the direction of time itself. It is not found in the ticking of a clock or the orbit of a planet, but in the quiet decay of everything that exists. It is the second law of thermodynamics, entropy. The law that says everything moves from order to disorder, from energy to exhaustion, from birth to death. In this law, time finds its arrow, pointing one way forever forward. Imagine a glass shattering on the floor. The shards scatter in perfect chaos but never, by themselves, reassemble. The reason is not magic, it is entropy. The universe favors disorder. From the collapse of a star to the aging of a human face, from melting ice to fading memories, entropy governs all. It is the silent engine that drives time forward, the cosmic truth that everything given enough moments will break down. Even galaxies die, their light stretched thin across the expanding fabric of space. Entropy is the universe's handwriting, carved into every atom, whispering the same message: nothing lasts. When the universe began, it was astonishingly ordered, a hot, dense sea of energy so uniform that it defied randomness. But as it expanded and cooled, cracks appeared in perfection. Differences formed, particles collided, structures emerged. That imbalance gave birth to stars, planets, and life. In a cruel paradox, entropy, the destroyer, was also the creator. Without decay there would be no evolution, without loss no transformation. Time's one-way flow is the price the cosmos pays for complexity. A cinematic montage unfolds, stars burn out in slow motion, galaxies collide in fiery spirals, metal rusts, ice melts, and a flower wilts in the golden light of sunset. These are the faces of entropy, beautiful and tragic. Each frame is a reminder that every act of creation is also an act of destruction waiting to happen. A newborn star shines brighter than 1,000 suns, yet its brilliance marks the countdown to its death. The same is true for us. The cells in our bodies obey the same law, dividing, aging, decaying, an invisible clock counting down to the inevitable stillness that awaits all living things. The second law gives time its meaning, but it also gives it its cruelty. It tells us that the universe is moving from order to chaos, from low entropy to high. Every second that passes, the cosmos becomes a little less structured, a little more random. One day, far into the future, entropy will reach its peak. All stars will fade, all movement will cease, and the universe will become a silent graveyard of cold particles drifting in endless darkness. No more energy. No more heat. No more time. And yet, within that bleak prophecy lies something profound. Entropy gives existence its story. Without decay there would be no beginning or end, only a frozen eternity. Entropy is what allows moments to pass, what gives meaning to change. It is the contrast between what was and what will be that gives life its beauty. A candle's flame matters precisely because it will burn out. A human life feels sacred because it cannot last forever. The inevitability of entropy turns every second into something fragile, and therefore precious. But entropy is not evil. It is balance. It is the universal reminder that perfection is temporary, that existence thrives on impermanence. In the heart of dying stars, new elements are forged: carbon, oxygen, iron. The atoms in your blood were born in the furnace of stars that obeyed the same law. Without entropy's relentless push toward change, there would be no stars to die, no life to form, no minds to ponder the meaning of it all. As we zoom out from the molecular to the cosmic, the narration softens. Entropy is not the enemy of creation. It is its shadow, its proof. The two are intertwined like light and darkness, each defining the other. The universe does not fight entropy, it dances with it. Every birth is a small defiance, every heartbeat a flicker of order within the sea of decay. But even those moments are temporary rebellions, brief sparks in the great unmaking. So the question lingers: if everything moves toward disorder, is there a way to reverse it? Some physicists dream of a universe that contracts, a cosmos that resets itself, a cycle where time's arrow bends back toward the beginning. Others believe entropy is the one true master, the final silence that no power can break. Between these theories lies humanity's deepest fear and fascination, that time is not just a measurement but a countdown. Every flicker of light, every breath of life, is a step toward equilibrium, the moment when all differences fade and the universe exhales for the last time. In the early years of the 20th century, time was considered absolute, a constant, universal rhythm that ticked the same for everyone, everywhere. It was dependable, unbending, the invisible metronome of the cosmos. Then, a quiet young man working in a Swiss patent office shattered it forever. His name was Albert Einstein, and his discovery would transform not just physics, but the very way humanity perceives reality. With one idea, relativity, Einstein broke the illusion that time flows the same for all. He showed that time bends, stretches, and warps depending on how fast you move and where you are in the universe. Suddenly, time was not a single clock, it was countless clocks, each ticking to its own rhythm. Imagine a train racing through the night, its lights cutting through the fog. On the platform, a person sees those lights flash by in an instant. Inside the train, another person sees the same lights moving slowly, almost suspended in time. Both are right. To each observer, time flows differently. This was Einstein's revelation. Time is relative to the observer's motion. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. Speed and time are entwined, forever trading balance like two sides of the same coin. To demonstrate this, Einstein imagined a thought experiment, a beam of light bouncing between two mirrors on a moving train. For the person inside the train, the light travels a short, straight path. For the person outside, watching from the platform, the light zigzags a longer distance as the train moves. Since the speed of light is constant for everyone, the only explanation is that time itself must slow down for the person on the train. This phenomenon is called time dilation. It is not illusion, it is measurable, real, and proven by experiment. Time literally slows down when you move faster. This truth defies intuition. To the human mind, time feels steady, we all age, we all watch clocks tick. But at cosmic scales, relativity reveals a strange truth. Your time and my time are not the same. Astronauts orbiting Earth experience time slightly slower than people on the ground. Their clocks tick a fraction of a second behind ours because of their speed. The difference is minuscule, but it exists, and it grows as velocity increases. If a person could travel near the speed of light, they could return to Earth decades or centuries later while having aged only a few years. To them, time stretched. To everyone else, it ran on. This is not fantasy. It is reality confirmed by technology itself. Every GPS satellite must account for relativity. Their onboard clocks tick faster than those on Earth due to weaker gravity in orbit, and slightly slower because of their speed. Engineers correct this difference daily, or navigation would fail within hours. The devices we hold in our hands rely on Einstein's equations to function, proof that time bends quietly above us every second. But Einstein went further. He revealed that space and time are not separate entities, they are one continuous fabric, space-time. Every object, from a pebble to a planet, bends that fabric according to its mass. This bending is what we experience as gravity. When you stand on Earth, you are not being pulled down, you are following the curved geometry of space-time itself. The greater the mass, the deeper the curve, and the slower time flows. This means time moves slower near a massive object like a star or a black hole than it does far away in open space. Imagine two twin brothers. One remains on Earth, the other travels close to a black hole. The second twin orbits near the event horizon, where gravity distorts time almost beyond recognition. When he returns, he finds his brother aged decades, while he has only lived a few hours. The bond between them, once shared, is now separated by time's relativity. This is not science fiction, it is the twin paradox, an experiment proven by theory and confirmed through observation. In this new universe, time is no longer a river flowing equally for all, but a landscape shaped by speed and mass. Clocks near mountains tick slower than those at sea level. The heart of the galaxy beats slower than its outer edges. Time is elastic, woven into the structure of existence, bending and stretching under the weight of matter and motion. And yet, Einstein's discovery brought more than knowledge. It brought wonder and a touch of fear. For if time is flexible, then our sense of now is fragile. Two observers can disagree on what events are simultaneous. What you call the present may already be the past or future for someone else, far away. There is no single moment that unites the universe. Each point in space carries its own time, like individual bubbles floating through an infinite ocean. Einstein once wrote, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." His words were not poetry, they were truth. The flow of time, which we feel so deeply, may be nothing more than our limited perception of a universe where all moments coexist. Relativity unveiled a deeper mystery. Perhaps time doesn't move forward at all. Perhaps everything, every heartbeat, every explosion, every whisper of creation, already exists suspended together in the grand fabric of spacetime. And so, as the camera fades from Einstein's face to the curvature of starlight bending around a massive object, the narration leaves a question hanging in the silence. If time is not absolute, if every clock beats its own rhythm, then what is the true tempo of the universe? Perhaps there isn't one. Perhaps time itself is the music, and we are only the instruments through which it plays. Imagine space not as emptiness but as something alive, a vast, invisible fabric stretching in every direction. It ripples, bends, and twists under the weight of stars, planets, and galaxies. Every object with mass presses into it, warping its smoothness, creating curves and valleys that shape the motion of everything around it. This is the fabric of spacetime, the grand stage upon which the universe performs its endless drama. Einstein's revelation was that gravity is not a force pulling objects together. It is the bending of this fabric, the geometry of existence itself. And wherever space bends, time bends with it. Visualize a heavy sphere resting on a stretched rubber sheet. Drop a smaller ball nearby and it rolls inward, not because the larger ball pulls it but because the sheet itself curves around it. This is how planets orbit stars, how moons orbit planets, how galaxies spiral together in cosmic harmony. The motion we call gravity is really the path of least resistance through curved spacetime. But here lies the hidden secret. That curve doesn't just shape where things go, it shapes when they go. Time, too, flows differently depending on how deep you sit in the cosmic fabric. Near a massive body, spacetime dips steeply. The deeper the dip, the slower time passes. This means that time runs slightly slower on Earth's surface than at the top of a mountain. It's a barely perceptible difference but real and measurable. The stronger the gravity, the slower the clock. What looks like a constant flow of seconds is actually an uneven tide, stretching and contracting across the universe. Every star, every planet, every atom creates its own local tempo. Now imagine something unimaginably massive, a star so dense that its own weight crushes it inward until even light cannot escape. A black hole. Here, spacetime folds so steeply that time itself nearly stops. If you hovered near its edge, an observer far away would see your clock slow to a crawl. To them, you would seem frozen, trapped on the edge of eternity. But from your perspective, time would move normally. It's the universe beyond that would appear to race ahead. This isn't magic. It's the inevitable consequence of curvature pushed to its limit. Inside this warped realm, light itself bends like a river of glass. Beams passing near a massive object twist and arc, creating gravitational lenses, cosmic mirages where galaxies appear stretched and multiplied across the sky. Through these distortions, we glimpse the weight of spacetime made visible, the invisible sculptor shaping the universe's grand architecture. The cosmos, it turns out, is not a flat stage. It's a living, flexible structure, responding to every particle that exists within it. But the more we understand it, the stranger it becomes. The equations describing spacetime curvature predict extremes beyond comprehension, places where the bending becomes infinite and the fabric tears. These are singularities, the mathematical edges of reality. Inside them, time and space switch roles. Space becomes trapped and time flows inward like a collapsing wave. Here, the known laws of physics collapse. What lies beyond is a blank in the cosmic script, a silence we are not yet able to read. The camera moves slowly through a visualization, a grid of spacetime sinking under the weight of a star, warping light into arcs of gold. Each ripple spreads outward, carrying the echo of gravity's touch. The narration deepens. If spacetime can bend, then it can also vibrate. And those vibrations, caused by massive cosmic events, travel across the universe as gravitational waves. Detected for the first time in 2015, these waves are the faint tremors of spacetime itself, ripples from merging black holes billions of light-years away. When they pass through Earth, they stretch and squeeze the planet by a fraction of an atom, whispering messages from the distant past. Through this, we learn that spacetime is not passive, it's dynamic. It hums, flexes, and remembers. It carries information across ages, a cosmic memory imprinted with every collision, every birth, every death of a star. The universe, once thought to be made of solid matter and empty void, is revealed as a single interconnected fabric where everything that happens, every explosion, every motion, every thought, distorts its weave in some small way. And so the mystery grows. If time is bound to the shape of space, then as the universe expands, is time itself stretching too? Are we, as conscious beings, not merely traveling through spacetime but expanding with it, our very seconds lengthening as the cosmos unfolds? Perhaps the passage of time is not a universal truth at all, but a local illusion, different for every star, every observer, every thought. As the visuals fade to the silent image of light curving around a black hole's edge, the narration softens. Time is not a straight line. It is a curve, drawn by gravity, sculpted by mass, and lived differently by every observer. The universe is not merely aging, it is warping itself with every heartbeat of existence. And somewhere, at the deepest folds of that invisible fabric, the truth of time still hides, waiting for us to reach the place where the curve becomes a circle, and the story of existence begins again. At the edge of a black hole, time itself begins to die. The fabric of reality stretches toward infinity, and what we once understood as seconds, minutes, or hours dissolves into something unrecognizable. This is the event horizon, the ultimate limit, the point beyond which nothing, not even light, can return. It is not merely a border of space, it is the boundary of time. To stand near it is to stand at the edge of forever. Imagine falling toward that darkness. From afar, a distant observer would see you slowing, your movements dragging, your light fading. To them, you would appear frozen, suspended forever on the edge, never quite crossing the boundary. Time for you, as seen by the universe outside, grinds nearly to a halt. But from your own perspective, nothing seems different. You fall normally, faster and faster, unaware that the rest of existence has accelerated beyond you. The stars above you begin to redden, their light stretched into infinity, until even the universe itself seems to dim and vanish. You are slipping not into space but into timelessness. This paradox, of motion and stillness, of life and silence, is what makes black holes so haunting. They are not merely cosmic objects, they are the graves of time. The deeper you go into their gravitational well, the slower your clock ticks compared to the universe outside. If you could hover just above the event horizon, eons would pass beyond you in moments. Entire civilizations could rise and fall while, for you, only minutes had passed. Time stretches like silk pulled to the point of tearing. And yet, in that distortion lies beauty. The warping of time near a black hole reveals the true unity of spacetime. What Einstein's equations predicted, the universe confirmed. Time is not independent, it bends and twists with the geometry of existence. A black hole is the purest expression of that idea. A region where space and time curve so violently that the direction we call forward in time begins to tilt toward the center of gravity itself. Inside, time doesn't flow, it falls. Physicists call this gravitational time dilation. It means that the closer you are to a massive object, the slower your experience of time. But near a black hole, this effect becomes absolute. To an external observer, nothing ever crosses the event horizon. The infalling matter appears to freeze, fading into darkness, its last light forever stretched into the red. Yet for the matter itself, it plunges inward freely, never noticing the boundary. The truth depends entirely on the point of view. Reality itself becomes relative, fractured by gravity's immense power. The closer we study black holes, the stranger they become. They defy the common rules of the universe, devouring information in a way that breaks the laws of physics. According to quantum theory, information can never be destroyed. Every particle state must, in principle, be recoverable. But black holes consume matter and energy, then radiate away their mass as faint thermal energy known as Hawking radiation. If they truly erase information, then the universe's fundamental equations collapse. If they don't, then the information must be stored somewhere, perhaps encoded on the event horizon itself, in a two-dimensional hologram of everything that fell within. This is the black hole information paradox, one of the deepest mysteries in science. Does time itself preserve memory even when matter is lost? As we peer closer, the black hole transforms from a monster to a messenger. It speaks of the hidden relationship between entropy, gravity, and time. The entropy of a black hole, the measure of its internal disorder, is proportional to the area of its event horizon, not its volume. This means that reality's deepest truths may not exist within, but on the surface, encoded like cosmic data upon the edges of time. Some physicists believe this principle may explain the entire universe, suggesting that all we perceive in 3 dimensions is a holographic projection from a 2-dimensional boundary beyond our understanding. In that vision, the event horizon becomes more than a cosmic limit, it becomes a mirror reflecting the fundamental nature of reality itself. The imagery sharpens, a swirling accretion disk spiraling into blackness, light bending in dizzying circles, the final heartbeat of a dying star collapsing inward. At the edge, time slows to a whisper. Beyond it, the equations fail. The singularity at the center, a point of infinite density and zero volume, defies all known physics. Space folds in on itself and time collapses. There is no before or after, no direction, no change. The arrow of time, which has guided every atom and star since the dawn of existence, vanishes. What lies beyond that point? Is it destruction or transformation? Some theories suggest that the singularity could be a gateway, a bridge to another universe where time flows differently, perhaps even backward. Others see it as the true end of everything, a place where all possible futures are swallowed in silence. Whatever the truth, the event horizon remains the greatest enigma in the cosmos, a threshold we can describe but never cross. And yet, the edge of the black hole is also the edge of understanding. It is the place where science becomes philosophy, where logic gives way to awe. Here, time is no longer something we can measure, only something we can feel. It slows, fractures, and fades, until all that remains is the question itself. What happens to time when it can no longer move forward? Perhaps it doesn't end at all. Perhaps it changes form, folding back into the eternal silence from which it was born. Inside the black hole, the universe as we know it ceases to exist. The boundaries that once separated matter, space, and time blur into a single, indescribable entity. Here, the familiar laws of physics, the ones that govern every star, atom, and heartbeat, begin to fail. It is a realm where logic bends, light cannot escape, and causality itself breaks apart. The event horizon is only the beginning. Beyond it lies the timeless zone, a place where the arrow of time no longer points forward, because there is no direction left to point to. It is not darkness, it is the absence of reality as we understand it. For the traveler who crosses the horizon, there is no turning back. From the outside they appear frozen, suspended on the edge forever. But from their own perspective they fall inward freely, into an ever-deepening well where every second draws them closer to a point of infinite compression, the singularity. In that descent, space stretches and time contracts until they trade roles. Movement through space becomes movement through time itself, and time becomes the dimension one cannot escape. The deeper the fall, the slower the universe above becomes. Stars age, galaxies spin, and entire cosmic ages pass in what feels like moments. To the observer inside, it may feel like passing through layers of silence. Sound cannot exist here. Light collapses into invisibility, and the distinction between matter and energy dissolves. The structure of atoms shatters under gravity's pressure, and space-time folds inward like the petals of a dying flower. What remains is not motion but inevitability, a journey that every particle must complete, down to the point where all paths end. In the timeless zone there is no before or after, no history or future. Every event occurs simultaneously, compressed into a singular now. This is where the concept of time itself becomes meaningless. In normal space we define time by change, a planet rotating, a pendulum swinging, a pulse beating. But inside the event horizon, there is no change that can be observed, no motion that can be compared. Everything that enters becomes part of a single, unchanging process. Time, stripped of its reference points, ceases to flow. It simply is. The black hole becomes a monument to stillness, a cosmic paradox where infinite motion results in eternal quiet. The singularity at the center is the most mysterious point in the universe. It is not a location in space but a boundary in physics. A region where density becomes infinite and the known equations collapse into nonsense. Matter, energy, and information lose their identities. The universe itself loses its coherence. Some physicists describe it as a point of zero volume and infinite curvature, but these are words reaching beyond their meaning. The truth is simpler and more terrifying: we do not know what happens there. It is the blind spot in the cosmic eye, the line between knowledge and the unknown. Yet, in this chaos, a strange possibility arises. The timeless zone may not be the end but a doorway. Some theories suggest that as spacetime collapses inward, it may also open outward, forming a bridge to another universe, another region of reality where the rules are different. These hypothetical tunnels through spacetime are known as wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges. If such a bridge exists, then falling into a black hole might not mean destruction but transformation. Time could begin again on the other side, perhaps running forward, perhaps backward. The black hole then would not just be a grave, it would be a womb for new universes, endlessly birthing new realities from the ruins of old ones. Others imagine a different possibility. Perhaps the singularity is not a portal but a cycle. What collapses into timelessness might one day re-emerge as the seed of a new Big Bang. Time could be circular, endlessly folding in and out of itself, each universe giving birth to another, like a heartbeat echoing through eternity. In this view, the timeless zone is not death, it is renewal. The end of one arrow of time marks the beginning of another. Cinematically, the scene unfolds as a slow descent through darkness, a human silhouette drifting toward a radiant void, surrounded by streaks of frozen light and distorted geometry. The narration softens: this is not destruction but revelation. The timeless zone is where the universe reveals its deepest secret. That time is not fundamental. It is emergent, a shadow cast by something deeper, something eternal. What we call the flow of time may only be the surface ripples of a far greater ocean, one that lies still and endless beneath. Here, in the silence of the singularity, all opposites dissolve. Chaos and order, creation and collapse, beginning and end, they merge into one. The duality that shaped the universe from the first instant is gone. There is no longer anything to separate existence from non-existence. And in that unity, time loses its power. The traveler who reaches this point would not die in the ordinary sense. They would dissolve into the structure of spacetime itself, becoming part of the fabric they once moved through. They would no longer experience time, they would become it. As the camera fades to black, the narration closes in a whisper. Perhaps this is what eternity truly means, not endless duration but the absence of duration altogether. The timeless zone is not an afterlife, nor an ending. It is the place where the universe folds in on itself, where everything that ever happened and everything that ever will merges into one infinite, motionless truth. In that silence beyond all seconds, the final illusion fades. Time was never a river, it was always the surface of the sea. In the silence beyond the black hole's edge, where time dissolves and matter collapses, another realm emerges, a world ruled not by gravity and mass, but by probability and uncertainty. This is the quantum domain, where reality itself flickers between existence and non-existence, and time no longer flows like a river but stutters, loops, and vanishes in discrete bursts. Here, at the smallest scales imaginable, the universe hums in whispers, quantum whispers, revealing a strange truth: time may not be continuous at all. It might come in quanta like light, appearing and disappearing in tiny, indivisible fragments. In the quantum world, everything is in motion but not in the way we understand it. Particles don't have definite positions until they are observed. They exist in a blur of probabilities, a cloud of potential realities waiting to be chosen. This uncertainty extends to time itself. In quantum mechanics, events don't unfold in a neat sequence of before and after. Instead, they exist as superpositions, multiple possible timelines coexisting until measurement locks one into place. To observe is to choose a version of reality, collapsing the infinite possibilities into one single now. But what does that mean for time? If events don't occur until they are observed, then does time exist independently, or is it born the moment we look? In the equations of quantum physics, time is an oddity. It doesn't behave like space, nor does it have a clear beginning or end. Many quantum formulations work perfectly well without any explicit reference to time at all. It is as if the universe, at its most fundamental level, does not need time to exist. Time, then, may be an illusion emerging from the collective behavior of countless quantum interactions, an emergent property, not a universal law. Imagine zooming into the fabric of spacetime until it breaks apart into quivering threads of probability. Each vibration corresponds to a possible outcome, each fluctuation a potential moment. Time at this level becomes grainy, no longer smooth and continuous, but made of indivisible ticks far smaller than any atom. Physicists call this the Planck scale, the smallest conceivable unit of measurement. Below it, the very concept of before and after loses meaning. What exists is not a flowing timeline but a vast network of quantum correlations, where every event is entangled with every other across the entire cosmos. Entanglement itself defies time. Two particles born together remain mysteriously connected, even if separated by light years. Change one, and the other responds instantly as though time and distance no longer apply. This spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it, hints at something profound. The universe may not be a collection of separate events unfolding in time, but a single, interconnected whole, where time is just one way of perceiving the relationships between things. If entanglement transcends time, then perhaps time is not a river carrying events forward, but a web connecting them simultaneously. In this view, the past and future are not linear, they coexist in the same quantum state, woven together by the threads of correlation. The act of observing does not merely reveal a future, it helps create it. Each measurement, each conscious moment, might collapse countless unrealized timelines into a single shared reality. Now imagine, visually, a slow montage of quantum fields shimmering in darkness, particles appearing, vanishing, reappearing, colliding in flashes of blue light. Time flickers like a faulty film reel, forward, backward, paused, reversed. For a brief instant it becomes clear, time is not something the universe has, it's something it does. It's a behavior, a rhythm emerging from the music of existence itself. This leads to one of the most unsettling ideas in modern physics: time symmetry. The fundamental laws of quantum mechanics do not prefer a direction. They work just as well forward as backward. To the universe, there is no inherent arrow of time. Entropy may give time direction on the macroscopic scale, but at the quantum level the equations are reversible. This means that particles, in theory, can move from the future to the past as easily as they move from the past to the future. What we experience as a flowing present may be only one side of a perfectly balanced equation, an illusion born from our limited perception of a much larger, timeless reality. Some scientists like Carlo Rovelli propose that time is not fundamental at all, that it emerges only when matter interacts, when systems become entangled. In his loop quantum gravity framework, spacetime is woven from discrete loops of energy, and time arises from the way these loops connect and change. In essence, time is relationship, not flow. It is born from interaction, not imposed from above. This aligns eerily with ancient philosophical ideas, from the Buddhist notion of dependent origination to the Greek belief that nothing exists by itself. The universe does not move through time, it creates time through its endless dance of interactions. And yet, as profound as this sounds, it also challenges everything we think we know about existence. If time is not fundamental, what does that mean for us? For memory, for destiny, for life itself? If past and future are merely illusions of perspective, then perhaps nothing is truly lost and nothing is ever yet to come. Every moment may exist forever, entangled in the quantum web of being, waiting to be observed again. As the narration deepens, the visuals fade to a serene field of light and shadow, waves collapsing into particles, energy coalescing into form and then dissolving again. The voice grows softer, contemplative. Perhaps time is not something that moves, but something that breathes, an oscillation between potential and reality, between the known and the possible. The universe whispers in quantum language, and we, as conscious observers, translate those whispers into stories, into histories, into moments that feel like forever. In the end, the mystery of quantum time is not about what it measures, but about what it reveals, that reality may not unfold in sequence but shimmer all at once. Every possibility, every event, every second may coexist in an eternal now, waiting for awareness to bring it into being. Time, the faithful companion of our existence, may only be a mirror, reflecting the infinite potential of a universe that never truly began and will never truly end. What if time isn't a straight line, but a circle? What if cause and effect are not separate but intertwined, like two hands grasping each other across eternity? The idea sounds impossible, but deep within the strange mathematics of physics, a haunting possibility emerges. Time might loop. Events might repeat. The future could give birth to the past, and the universe could feed back into itself like an echo that never fades. This is the loop hypothesis, a vision of reality where the arrow of time bends until it meets its own tail. In the human imagination, time is linear because that is how we live it. We are born, we grow, we die. We move forward through memory and anticipation, marking progress through irreversible change. But physics offers no such comfort. The equations that govern particles, gravity, and motion are symmetrical. They make no distinction between forward and backward. The universe does not prefer one direction. It simply is. To it, time is a dimension, not a current. The notion of past and future might be nothing more than human perception, our way of creating order out of infinite possibilities. But what happens when that perception collapses? Imagine a universe where the end folds seamlessly into the beginning, where time curves so completely that it becomes a loop. In such a cosmos, the Big Bang might not be the start of everything, but merely the continuation of a previous universe's death, a cosmic breath inhaled after an exhalation billions of years long. Every explosion of creation could be the echo of another, older collapse. The universe may not expand toward oblivion, but orbit endlessly through cycles of birth and destruction. In theoretical physics, this idea takes many forms. In one known as a closed time-like curve, spacetime itself allows for paths that loop back on themselves. A particle following such a path would eventually return to the point where it began, not in space but in time. This means that the particle could interact with its past self, blurring the line between cause and effect. A message could arrive before it is sent. A traveler could meet their younger self before they were born. These are not just fantasies. They are legitimate solutions to Einstein's field equations, permitted by the geometry of spacetime itself. Yet, if time loops exist, they create unbearable paradoxes. The most famous is the grandfather paradox. If you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, how could you ever be born to commit that act? The very idea seems to tear logic apart. But quantum theory once again offers an escape. In the quantum world, all possibilities exist simultaneously. In one branch you prevent the meeting, in another you do not. The paradox dissolves into multiplicity. Every possible outcome splits into its own universe, each consistent within itself. The loop still exists, but instead of contradiction, it creates divergence, like a fractal of timelines branching endlessly. In this vision, time is not a single road, but an infinite forest of paths that diverge, reconnect, and intertwine. Each decision, each quantum event, sends reality into a new loop of possibilities. You are not just moving through time, you are creating it. Every choice you make fractures the universe into countless versions of itself, all coexisting, all true. The future does not wait ahead of you, it already exists in all its variations, and your perception simply moves through one thread of that infinite web. But beyond the mathematics lies something more human, more emotional. The loop hypothesis touches a deep longing within us, the desire to relive, to return, to undo. Who hasn't wished to go back to a single moment and change its outcome? To speak the unspoken words, to make the right decision, to hold someone a little longer before time carried them away? The possibility of loops awakens both hope and horror. Hope because it means nothing is truly lost. Horror because it suggests we might be trapped in an endless cycle of repetition, fated to relive our triumphs and tragedies forever. Friedrich Nietzsche once called this the eternal return. He asked, if every joy and every suffering were to repeat infinitely, would you embrace it? Could you live each moment knowing it will echo through eternity? The loop hypothesis transforms this philosophy into physics. If time truly loops, then we are not merely travelers, we are performers in an eternal play, endlessly repeating our lines across cosmic ages. Every thought, every breath, every act of love or cruelty has been and will be again forever. Visualize the cosmos as a vast spiral. Each revolution a universe, each moment feeding the next. Galaxies swirl like clockwork gears in a machine that never stops turning. At the center, time folds into itself, creating the illusion of linear progression. Yet, from a higher perspective, everything has already happened and will happen again. The present moment is not a point on a line. It is the overlap of infinite cycles, the intersection of countless returns. And still, even within this deterministic elegance, there may be freedom. Quantum uncertainty ensures that every loop is slightly different. A variation, a new improvisation in the grand symphony. Perhaps that is what consciousness truly is. The awareness that each repetition is unique, that each moment carries the possibility of renewal. We may be bound by time's loop, but within it we have the power to choose how we move. As the camera pans across a cosmic vista of spiraling galaxies, the narration slows. Perhaps time loops are not prisons but patterns, reflections of the universe's need to know itself. Maybe we are the instruments through which it remembers, the witnesses that give meaning to its eternal repetition. In the looping architecture of space-time, nothing is truly forgotten. Every moment, every life, every heartbeat remains, suspended in the infinite return. And as the stars fade into the black curve of eternity, a final question lingers. If time loops endlessly, are we moving forward, or simply returning home? Perhaps the end of time is not a wall we collide with, but a doorway we've already passed through countless times before, forever stepping into the same dawn, believing it to be new. Imagine standing at the edge of reality, looking not outward into space but sideways, into possibility. What if the universe you know, the one you can touch and measure, is only one among an infinite number of others? What if every decision, every random event, every flicker of quantum uncertainty doesn't merely happen one way, but every way? This is the multiverse of moments, a realm where time itself splits endlessly, creating countless variations of existence. Each branch, each divergence forms a new world, one where everything you've ever done or might have done exists somewhere simultaneously. In the classical view, time is a single thread. The universe begins, events unfold, and the future follows the past. But in the quantum view, things are far stranger. When a particle faces two possible paths, it doesn't choose one, it takes both. It exists in a superposition of states, occupying multiple realities at once. When observed, that superposition collapses into a single outcome. But what if the other outcomes don't vanish? What if they persist, branching into their own universes? That is the heart of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Every quantum decision, every flicker of uncertainty, creates a new timeline, parallel, independent, and infinite. Imagine flipping a coin. In one universe it lands heads, in another tails. But extend this principle beyond coins, to atoms, to stars, to consciousness. With every quantum event, the cosmos divides, birthing new realities faster than time can count. Somewhere, another version of you is reading this same line, but blinking at a slightly different moment. Somewhere else you never found this story at all. And further still, a version of you never existed, while another is staring back through a telescope, wondering if you exist instead. The multiverse is not just a scientific theory, it's a philosophical revolution. It destroys the idea of a single timeline, a single fate. It replaces destiny with infinite possibility. Every choice you make doesn't erase the others, it multiplies them. The universe becomes not a story but a library, a collection of every story that could ever be written. Each life, each event, each fleeting thought becomes a chapter in a boundless book, written by the fabric of reality itself. Yet this vision is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Because if every possible version of you exists, what makes this one special? What gives meaning to your choices if, in another universe, you made the opposite ones? The multiverse confronts us with a paradox of significance. Everything matters infinitely, and yet nothing is unique. You could save a life in one world and destroy it in another. You could rise to greatness or fade into obscurity, all at once. Every triumph and tragedy, every love and loss, echoes through the infinite halls of existence, repeated in endless variation. Scientists like Hugh Everett, who first proposed the many worlds interpretation in 1957, saw it as a way to resolve the strange contradictions of quantum theory. It removes the need for collapse. Instead, reality simply branches. Each branch is as real as any other, though separated from our perception. Over time, these worlds diverge further and further, like rivers flowing from the same source. The separation is so complete that no traveler can move between them. We live confined to one branch, forever blind to the infinite others beside it. But if that's true, then what is the nature of time in such a universe? Does it flow the same way in every branch, or could one diverge backward while another races ahead? Some physicists believe that time itself may not be global, that it's local to each universe, each observer. In one branch, billions of years might pass, while in another, only seconds. The multiverse could contain timelines that are asynchronous, chaotic, and nonlinear, a grand cosmic web where every strand vibrates to its own rhythm. Visually, it's breathtaking to imagine. A vast, luminescent fractal of timelines spreading in every direction, each universe shimmering with its own history, its own laws, its own flow of time. In one, gravity is stronger. In another, life never formed. In yet another, civilization rose from oceans of methane beneath twin suns. Each possibility is as real as ours, each one a mirror reflecting a different version of creation's dream. The deeper implication, however, is profoundly human. If every possibility exists, then every emotion does too. Every act of love, every gesture of kindness, every heartbreak, every forgiveness. Somewhere, you are everything you could ever be and everything you fear to be. Somewhere, your greatest regrets never happened. Somewhere else, your greatest victories never came. The multiverse doesn't just describe the cosmos. It describes the infinity within you. And yet, even in this infinite branching of existence, there might be connection. Quantum entanglement, particles linked across vast distances, may extend across universes. Some physicists speculate that interference between branches could explain certain phenomena we don't yet understand, like quantum tunneling or déjà vu. Perhaps those eerie moments when we feel we've been here before, or when fate seems to whisper our name, are the echoes of our parallel selves brushing against us from another world. But as we imagine these endless realities, another question arises: who observes them all? Is consciousness itself the bridge, the observer that gives reality its shape across branches? If each version of us exists independently, is there a higher awareness that perceives them all at once outside of time? Some philosophers believe that consciousness, not matter, is the fundamental fabric, that we are not beings in time, but fragments of a timeless awareness exploring itself through infinite possibilities. As the narration slows, the visuals expand into a sweeping panorama of universes blooming like galaxies within galaxies, each one a shimmering bubble of possibility, each containing countless worlds within. The voice softens into reflection. Perhaps we have never truly made a choice at all. Perhaps every decision is a doorway and we walk through all of them endlessly. What we call fate may simply be the path we remember. And as the screen fades to black, only a single question remains, lingering like an echo through infinity. If every version of you exists somewhere in the multiverse, then which one is truly you? The one reading these words, or the one dreaming them from another world, wondering the same? Time as we know it is a human story, a tale we tell to make sense of movement, change, and loss. But what happens when the storyteller disappears? What is time without eyes to watch it pass, without minds to mark its rhythm? Imagine a universe long after us, where no voice remains to measure a second, no heartbeat to count an hour. This is the great silence, the moment when consciousness fades and time continues without witness. This is time without us. The story begins billions of years from now. The stars that once lit our skies have grown old. The Milky Way, once vibrant and full of cosmic fire, has become a graveyard of cold suns and dark remnants. The night sky, once scattered with constellations that guided our ancestors, is now nearly black. The last light of dying stars glimmers faintly across the endless void, pale embers floating in the dark ocean of expanding space. There are no eyes left to see them. No species to name their shapes. The universe, once so alive with sound and color, has gone silent. On Earth, if it still exists, the oceans have long boiled away. The atmosphere, stripped and burned, has dissolved into nothing. The continents, erased by time and erosion, have crumbled into dust. The once blue planet that harbored poetry, love and curiosity has become a barren stone orbiting a swollen, dying Sunday. The final breath of sunlight flares outward, consuming what remains before collapsing into darkness. Our world, our histories, our memories, all fade into the background hum of entropy. Time, indifferent and infinite, moves on. And yet, the question lingers: what does time mean when there is no one left to experience it? Does time still flow without perception, or is the passing of time itself an illusion born of awareness? Without consciousness, there is no memory to compare one moment to another, no distinction between before and after. The universe, without observers, may simply be a frozen tableau of existence without sequence. In that emptiness, every second, every millennium becomes meaningless. Time without us might not be time at all, it might be eternal stillness. Still, the universe continues its grand cycle of decay. Stars die and leave behind corpses, white dwarfs that cool into black dwarfs, neutron stars that fade into invisible shadows, black holes that slowly evaporate through Hawking radiation. Galaxies drift apart until their light can no longer reach one another. The cosmic web that once connected everything unravels into isolation. Eventually, even matter itself begins to dissolve. Protons decay. Atoms vanish. The building blocks of existence evaporate into radiation so faint it cannot be measured. The universe becomes a cold sea of dark energy and ghost-like particles, stretched thinner and thinner by expansion. From a cinematic perspective, the imagery slows. The camera drifts across endless darkness, passing lonely black holes, dim remnants of ancient galaxies, and the faint hum of dying energy fields. There is no sound, no movement, only the soft pulse of background radiation fading toward zero. The narration whispers as if afraid to disturb the silence. This is the ultimate stillness, the quiet beyond creation. The universe, once filled with fire and noise, has become the memory of itself. And yet, even in this darkness, there is a strange kind of peace. The chaos that once raged across billions of years has settled. The endless collisions, births, and deaths of stars have ceased. There are no more beginnings, no more endings, only equilibrium. Time has lost its direction because there is no longer anything to change. Entropy has reached its absolute peak. Every difference, every imbalance has dissolved. In this eternal calm, the universe may finally rest. Philosophers have long wondered whether time needs consciousness to exist. Perhaps the flow of time is not an objective truth but a perception, a trick of the mind born from memory and anticipation. Without beings to observe it, maybe the universe has no past or future, only an infinite now. In that sense, when the last observer fades, time itself dies too. It doesn't end in an explosion or a collapse, but in quiet indifference, slipping unnoticed into nothingness. But there's another possibility, one more poetic, more hopeful. Perhaps even when the universe grows cold, the essence of time continues to breathe, faint but eternal. Not as ticking seconds or burning stars, but as potential, the capacity for something to emerge again. Quantum fluctuations in the vacuum might one day give rise to new energy, new space, even a new universe. Time then would not die, it would only sleep, waiting to be awakened once more. The scene fades into total darkness. The stars are gone. The screen is empty, yet somehow it feels full of the weight of everything that once was. A voice, soft and distant, breaks the silence. Without us, time forgets itself. But perhaps it never needed us at all. Perhaps we were its dream, fleeting and fragile, and now that the dream has ended, time returns to what it has always been, unseen, unmeasured, eternal. As the final echo fades, the viewer is left with an uneasy peace. Time without us is not horror, it is transcendence. It is the universe returning to its purest state, unburdened by memory, meaning, or motion. The great cosmic story that began with fire ends not with destruction, but with stillness, a silence so deep that it becomes sacred. In that silence lies the ultimate paradox. The death of time is also its fulfillment. For only when there is nothing left to change, does the universe finally become timeless. Imagine time not as a straight arrow but as a reversible path, a river that can flow both forward and backward depending on where you stand within it. What if the universe could remember its way back, reversing its steps, retracing its patterns until it reached the beginning again? The idea feels alien to our human experience because everything we know, life, decay, memory, moves in one direction. But the laws of physics themselves are indifferent to direction. At the deepest level, the universe doesn't care whether time moves forward or backward. This is the mystery of the arrow reversed. We perceive time as progress, an unfolding of moments that can never be revisited. Yet, when physicists write down the equations that govern matter and energy, they find something startling. Almost all of them work perfectly in reverse. If you were to film the microscopic world, atoms colliding, particles spinning, and then play the footage backward, the laws of motion would still hold true. Nature itself does not forbid time from running the other way. The arrow of time, it seems, is not written into the fabric of the universe but drawn by circumstance, by entropy, by asymmetry, by our own perception. Entropy, the law of increasing disorder, is what gives time its direction. It ensures that eggs crack, stars burn out, and we age instead of grow younger. But what if, under certain conditions, entropy could reverse? Imagine a region of the cosmos where energy flows inward instead of outward, where order increases instead of decaying. In that inverted domain, the arrow of time would point the other way. The past would become the future, and every cause would trail its effect. To us, such a world would seem impossible, yet theoretically nothing prevents it. In the endless vastness of the multiverse, somewhere, somewhen, there may already exist universes whose timelines run backward from ours. Visualize it: snow melting into water in one universe, while in another, droplets climb upward and form perfect snowflakes again. In our world, smoke rises and disperses. In the reversed one, it gathers and folds back into flame. Death becomes birth. Ruin becomes renewal. The flow of cause and effect collapses into a mirror symmetry so profound it erases meaning itself. To us, those universes would appear to move and rewind, their history unwinding as ours continues forward. To them, we would be the ones moving backward, the ghosts of a timeline that makes no sense. The strange beauty of this idea is that it doesn't require magic, only relativity and perspective. According to some cosmological models, time's arrow is a local phenomenon, not a universal one. It may depend entirely on initial conditions. If the Big Bang set entropy rising in one direction, another Big Bang, elsewhere in another bubble of spacetime, might have set it rising in the opposite direction. To its inhabitants, time would feel perfectly normal. Their memories, their histories, their lives would unfold coherently. Only from our vantage point would their universe appear reversed. Thus, there may be not one but two arrows of time, diverging from the same origin and flying apart like wings from a single point of creation. Some theorists go further. They propose that our universe itself might one day reverse. As cosmic expansion slows, if it ever does, the universe could stop stretching and begin to contract. Galaxies would draw closer, stars would ignite in reverse, and the cosmic clock would begin to tick backward. Eventually, every atom would return to the primordial fire of the Big Bang, collapsing not in chaos, but in perfect order like the unrolling of a scroll. In this vision, the end of time becomes its beginning, and the story of existence plays again in reverse, forever oscillating between expansion and contraction, between creation and recollection. But what would it feel like to live in a reversed world? Would consciousness follow the same flow, or would awareness still move forward, even as time itself rewinds? Some philosophers argue that memory defines our sense of direction. We remember the past, not the future, because information accumulates in one direction of entropy. If entropy reversed, perhaps so would memory. We might remember tomorrow and forget yesterday. To us, that sounds like madness. To those living in reverse, it would be natural. The arrow of experience would simply flip, and they would believe their world flows forward, just as we do. The emotional weight of this idea is staggering. It suggests that time's direction, so central to our sense of meaning, may be an illusion born from thermodynamics. The feeling that life moves forward, that we can never return, that every second is lost forever, might not be universal truth, but the byproduct of how energy spreads. And if that is true, then death itself, the ultimate forward motion, may be only half of the story. Somewhere, in another frame of time, everything we lose is being reassembled. Every burnt-out star is reigniting, every fallen leaf reattaching to its branch, every life relived in reverse. A cinematic montage unfolds, raindrops rising from oceans, smoke folding into chimneys, flowers closing and retreating into buds. A human hand unwrinkles with youth as laughter rewinds into silence. It is haunting and beautiful, a vision of time's undoing. Yet even as the images run backward, the emotion remains the same. The ache of impermanence, the awe of existence, the fragile beauty of the moment, these do not depend on direction. Whether time moves forward or backward, we still feel its passage. We are still aware of what it means to change. Perhaps that is the final paradox. Even if time could reverse, consciousness might not. Awareness may forever move forward, building meaning from the act of witnessing, no matter which way the clock turns. The arrow of time may flip, but the arrow of experience remains. We are the universe observing its own transformation, whether in ascent or descent, creation or collapse. As the scene fades, the narrator's voice becomes almost a whisper. Maybe the arrow of time isn't broken, it's bent. And somewhere beyond the horizon of our understanding, it curves back toward itself. Perhaps the past and the future are not opposites at all, but reflections on the same surface of eternity. The final image lingers, two spiraling galaxies moving in mirrored motion, one forward, one backward, both drifting through the same endless dark. The voice concludes softly, almost as if speaking to itself, If the arrow of time ever turns, it will not erase what we've been. It will simply remind us that everything that vanishes still exists somewhere, traveling the opposite way, back toward the light. The universe is a vast symphony, and time is its rhythm, a beat that began with the Big Bang and has never stopped. For billions of years, it has pulsed through the galaxies, through stars and planets, through life and consciousness. Yet even symphonies end. The great cosmic music that began in a flash of creation will one day fade into silence. What happens then? What lies at the edge of time, the moment when the universe's clock stops ticking, when existence itself grows still? It begins with expansion. Since the first instant of creation, space has been stretching, carrying galaxies away from one another like leaves on a rising tide. The further apart they drift, the faster they move. In the earliest days, scientists believed gravity would one day slow this motion, perhaps even reverse it. But the opposite has proven true. The expansion is accelerating, driven by a mysterious force known as dark energy, a presence we cannot see or measure directly, yet one that dominates the cosmos. It is as if the universe is being pulled apart by an invisible breath, a force that feeds on emptiness. As this acceleration continues, the universe grows colder, dimmer, lonelier. The great clusters of galaxies that once formed the cosmic web begin to separate beyond reach. Communication between galaxies becomes impossible. The night sky, which once burned with countless stars, will fade to black. Future astronomers, if any exist, will see only the faint light of their own galaxy and believe, mistakenly, that theirs is the only one. The universe will have hidden its past. Time itself will seem to lose meaning as distances become infinite and isolation complete. Billions of years pass. Stars exhaust their fuel and collapse into white dwarfs, then cool into black dwarfs, frozen cinders of what once burned bright. Gravity, once the sculptor of creation, now becomes the undertaker, folding everything back towards stillness. Planets disintegrate, atoms decay, and matter itself begins to unravel. The dance of creation slows until motion nearly ceases. Entropy, the universal law of decay, reaches its peak. Every difference is erased, every pattern forgotten. The universe becomes a flat, featureless expanse of absolute equilibrium, a place where nothing happens because nothing can happen. This is the heat death of the universe, the final act of time. Without energy differences there is no change. Without change there is no time. The ticking of the cosmic clock halts, not with an explosion or collapse, but with a whisper. Time doesn't end in violence. It fades into stillness, a soft, eternal silence. The last light flickers out, and the universe becomes a black ocean of emptiness. In this final darkness, the very idea of before and after dissolves. There are no events left to mark the passing of moments. The universe, once alive with motion, has reached perfect rest. And yet, even in this stillness, mystery persists. Some cosmologists believe that this might not be the end, but the beginning of something new. The quantum field, the fabric of reality itself, never truly reaches zero. It hums faintly, vibrating with potential. In that faint, eternal tremor lies the possibility of rebirth. A random fluctuation could one day spark another Big Bang, a new expansion, a new timeline. Time, having reached its edge, might fold back on itself, an endless cycle of creation and dissolution, a heartbeat echoing across eternity. The universe could be breathing, inhaling and exhaling across unimaginable ages. Other theories propose a different fate, the Big Rip. If dark energy continues to strengthen, the expansion of space may accelerate without limit. Galaxies will not merely drift apart, they will be torn apart. Gravity will lose its hold on stars, stars on planets, and atoms on their nuclei. The fabric of spacetime itself will stretch until even subatomic particles disintegrate. Time will not fade quietly in this version of the end, it will tear. The very geometry of the universe will unravel, leaving nothing but quantum foam and silence. In this apocalypse of expansion, the edge of time is not stillness but rupture. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere between. The end of time might not be destruction or rebirth, but transformation. Time could dissolve into a state that transcends our understanding, a realm where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. To an outside observer, if one could exist beyond time, the universe would appear as a completed whole, a single, timeless structure containing every moment from birth to death, all at once. Our lives, our histories, our entire cosmic story would be frozen in that eternal geometry, preserved forever in the pattern of spacetime. Time would not end, it would simply stop changing. Visually, the scene unfolds with haunting beauty. Galaxies fade into darkness, stars wink out one by one, and the fabric of spacetime ripples softly before settling into absolute calm. The camera pans across the empty universe, black, silent, infinite. Yet, within that silence, faint ripples of quantum possibility shimmer, like whispers of a dream not yet gone. The narration slows to a near whisper. Perhaps the edge of time is not the end of the story, but the space between stories, the pause between breaths of creation. And as we drift beyond the last flicker of light, a final question lingers. Can time ever truly end, or does it only change its form? Maybe time is not something the universe moves through, but something it creates to experience itself. So, then the edge of time is not death, it is reflection. The universe looking back upon its own existence, seeing itself whole, perfect, and complete. The final image fades to nothing, a black screen, absolute stillness. Then, for just a fraction of a second, a single spark appears. A flicker, faint and familiar. The same spark that once began it all. And in that glimmer we understand, time has not ended. It has returned to its beginning. The edge of time is not the wall of eternity, but the curve that bends back toward creation, reminding us that the story of existence is not a line, but an endless, luminous circle. At the heart of every question about time lies an even deeper one. What does it mean to observe it? If the universe exists without anyone to witness it, does time still pass? Or does time, like a wave waiting to collapse, only emerge when something conscious experiences it? This paradox sits at the intersection of physics and philosophy, of science and spirit. It is called the observer's paradox, the haunting idea that observation is not a passive act, but an act of creation. Modern physics has shown us that the simple act of watching can change reality. In the quantum world, particles exist in many possible states, spinning one way and the other, being here and there, until they are measured. The instant we observe them, the wave of probability collapses into one reality. The universe chooses. But who, or what, forces that choice? Does consciousness, in some mysterious way, shape the physical world simply by observing it? If so, then perhaps time itself is born not from the universe but from awareness. Imagine a particle flickering in the void before the birth of stars. It vibrates in possibility, unmeasured, undefined. Then something or someone observes it. In that instant it becomes real. It has a position, a moment, a history. From that single act of observation, a chain reaction begins. The first event, the first cause, the first sequence. Perhaps this is how time began, not with a bang but with an act of witnessing. The observer is not inside time. The observer creates time. Einstein himself hinted at this mystery. He once wrote that time is an illusion, a stubbornly persistent one. But if it is an illusion, who sustains it? Who watches the ticking of the cosmic clock and makes it feel real? Every scientific discovery draws us closer to the same threshold, the moment where consciousness and physics touch. In relativity, time is flexible, it stretches and shrinks depending on perspective. In quantum mechanics, reality itself depends on observation. The two great pillars of modern science both whisper the same unsettling truth. Reality may not exist in full until it is observed. The question then becomes almost unbearable. Who or what observed the first moment? Before stars, before atoms, before any form of life. What consciousness could have existed to witness the birth of the universe? Some physicists argue that observation need not be conscious at all, that any interaction, even between particles, is enough to define reality. When two particles collide, they observe each other, collapsing each other's quantum uncertainty into measurable form. In that view, the universe watches itself. Every particle, every interaction, is a kind of cosmic awareness, and the whole of reality is a self-observing machine. But others, more daring, suggest that consciousness is not an effect of matter. It is the foundation from which matter arises. This is the idea of panpsychism, that awareness is woven into the fabric of existence itself. Under this lens, even the simplest vibration of energy possesses a sliver of perception, a whisper of experience. The universe is not a dead machine, it is alive with awareness. The act of existing is the act of observing. This idea has ancient echoes. In Hindu philosophy, Brahman, the ultimate reality, is described as pure consciousness that dreams the universe into being. In Buddhism, reality is seen as dependent on perception. Form and emptiness exist in an eternal relationship. Even Western mystics and philosophers, from Descartes to Schrödinger, have pondered whether the cosmos requires a witness to be real. Across cultures and centuries, the same question emerges. Is the universe a grand stage performing for itself, or is there an audience watching from beyond the curtain of time? From a cinematic perspective, This section unfolds as both intimate and cosmic. The visuals shift between two scales, the microscopic and the infinite. We see quantum particles shimmering like stars, each flickering into being under an unseen gaze. Then we pull back, far beyond galaxies, until the universe itself appears as a living eye, a vast, luminous consciousness reflecting upon itself. The narration softens, almost reverent. Perhaps the observer is not separate from the observed. Perhaps the universe became aware so that it could look upon its own beauty. In this vision, time ceases to be a mechanical process. It becomes relational, a dialogue between observer and observed. Without the act of perception, there is no before or after, only undifferentiated potential. Time is born when awareness moves, when it experiences change, when it divides reality into this and that, then and now. Each moment we notice the world, each breath, each heartbeat, is an act of creation. We collapse infinite possibility into a single lived instant. But this realization leads to an even deeper question. If observation creates time, then who observes us? Are we, too, being witnessed by something beyond comprehension, something that gives our own existence meaning and reality? Perhaps we are not the final observers but part of an infinite chain of observation. Consciousness observing consciousness, awareness reflecting awareness. At the highest level, the observer and the observed are one and the same. The universe is looking at itself through our eyes. As the section nears its end, the imagery fades into silence. The narrator speaks softly over a slow zoom into a human eye, which dissolves into the glowing eye of a galaxy. What if the first act of creation was not matter or energy, but awareness? What if time began the moment the universe first looked at itself? The screen darkens and for a moment, all is quiet. Then, faintly, the ticking of a clock resonates, not from a machine but from within. The pulse of a heart, steady and eternal. The voice concludes, the observer's paradox is not a riddle to solve, it is a mirror. For every time we ask who created time, time whispers back, you did. Perhaps time never truly ends. Perhaps every ending is only a return, a grand cycle repeating itself across eternity. Long before science gave it a name, ancient civilizations intuited this truth, that existence moves not in a straight line but in circles. Birth follows death, dawn follows dusk, and destruction gives way to creation again. This is the final revelation, the eternal return. The idea that the universe itself is caught in an infinite loop, forever dying and being reborn, forever retelling its own story in different forms. Imagine the universe not as a line stretching toward oblivion, but as a great wheel turning endlessly. Each rotation births galaxies, stars, and life. Each completion ends them only to begin again. Every Big Bang may be the echo of a previous collapse, every beginning the reflection of a forgotten end. Modern cosmology calls this the cyclic model, a vision where universes expand, cool, and then contract under their own gravity, collapsing back into a singular point that explodes again, rebirthing space, matter, and time. The universe breathes in and out, across eons so vast that even eternity must pause to listen. In the ancient East, this cycle was called samsara, the wheel of existence turning through endless reincarnations. The Hindus saw creation and destruction as the dance of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, birth, preservation, and dissolution in perfect balance. The Stoic philosophers of Greece believed the cosmos burned and reformed in infinite repetition. Nietzsche gave the idea its modern voice, calling it the eternal recurrence, the infinite replay of every moment, where every joy and every sorrow returns again and again, exactly as before. It is a thought both magnificent and terrifying. What if you had to live your life eternally, every moment repeated in the exact same sequence? Would you despair, or would you finally understand the sacredness of every instant? Modern physics offers its own poetry. The cyclic universe may be driven by dark energy that eventually reverses polarity, causing expansion to slow and contraction to begin. The universe would fold in on itself, galaxies merging, stars colliding, until all matter condenses into a singularity, the seed of the next creation. When it explodes again, time itself resets, though not identically. Tiny quantum fluctuations, minute differences, ensure that each universe is slightly different from the last. Thus, eternity becomes variation, infinite rebirth with infinite nuance. The universe does not merely repeat, it evolves through its repetitions, refining itself across ages beyond imagination. Visually, the story unfolds like a grand symphony. The screen fills with a slow montage of galaxies collapsing inward, their light curving into spirals, then vanishing into a single blinding flash, the birth of a new cosmos. Planets form, oceans boil, life emerges again somewhere, somehow. Across each cycle, consciousness rises anew, asking the same questions, staring at the same stars, wondering about the nature of time. The narration whispers, what if every civilization that has ever looked up at the night sky is the echo of the last, their voices blending across the ages into one eternal song? But the eternal return is more than cosmology, it is philosophy written in light. It asks not just what the universe does but why. If everything recurs, then every moment, every breath, every choice, matters infinitely. You are not living your life once, you are living it forever. Every act of kindness, every cruelty, every love, every regret will echo endlessly. In that realization lies both freedom and weight. You are the sculptor of eternity. The smallest gesture ripples across infinity, shaping the next universe that will rise from the ashes of this one. From a psychological view, the eternal return becomes a test of acceptance. Can you look at your life, the pain, the loss, the beauty, and say yes to it eternally? Nietzsche called this amor fati, the love of fate, to embrace everything as if you had chosen it, again and again for all time. The cyclic universe makes this idea literal. Time, looping forever, offers no escape, only the opportunity to live each repetition with awareness, grace, and reverence. As the narrative deepens, the camera drifts through the cosmic cycle. Supernovas birthing atoms, atoms forming life, life giving rise to consciousness. Then the focus narrows to a single human face, eyes closed, breathing in silence. The same atoms that once burned in ancient stars now compose a mind capable of wondering where they came from. The same awareness that asked, "What is time?" in one universe will ask again in the next. Every cycle remembers, though it does not know it remembers. The universe, through us, dreams of itself. Yet even the eternal loop holds mystery. Could the cycle ever break? Could time one day find release from repetition and transcend into something beyond? Some theorists believe entropy might not fully reset. With each rebirth, the universe carries a faint memory of its past, a residue of information etched into the quantum field. If so, then every new universe is a reincarnation, not a perfect copy. It learns. It grows. The cosmos, through infinite cycles, may be evolving toward awareness, slowly, inevitably awakening to itself. As the final movement swells, the visuals expand into infinity, countless universes blooming like galaxies in a cosmic lotus, each reflecting the others in endless mirrors of light. The narration slows, almost prayer-like. Maybe the edge of time is not an end but a mirror. What has been will be again. Every ending is a beginning seen from another angle. The universe breathes, and in that breath we are born, we die, we return. Then silence. A single pulse of light, just as in the beginning, flares softly in the dark. It expands, becoming the heartbeat of a new cosmos. The voice, gentle and resolute, closes the story. There is no final moment, no last frame of the film. Time folds, renews, and begins again. And somewhere within that infinite return, you and I are still here, watching, remembering, awakening, forever part of the circle that never ends. If everything that has ever existed is destined to return, if the universe endlessly dies and is reborn, then perhaps the next question is inevitable. What lies beyond the circle? After traveling through the great spiral of beginnings and endings, through the rise and collapse of stars, consciousness, and time itself, there must come a point where even cycles transform. Section 19 brings us to the most mysterious horizon of all, beyond the eternal return. The moment where repetition gives way to revelation, where the universe, having lived and relived itself across infinity, begins to awaken to what it truly is. Imagine eternity not as endless time, but as awareness without boundaries. A state where all cycles, the loops of universes, the lives within them, the rise and fall of civilizations, are seen at once, like notes in a single chord. In this ultimate perspective, the line, the loop, and the spiral merge into a still point of consciousness. Here, the universe is no longer just matter or motion, it is self-awareness unfolding. Every birth, every collapse, every echo of creation has been a gesture in one vast act of remembering. Across billions of years and infinite recurrences, the universe has sculpted itself into beings capable of asking questions, beings like us. Through life, it developed eyes to see, minds to reflect, voices to speak its own wonder aloud. What if this was the purpose of the cycle all along? Not endless repetition for its own sake, but evolution toward comprehension. Each rebirth adds one more layer of understanding. Each civilization, each moment of awe, adds to the universe's memory of itself. We are not passengers within the loop, we are its awakening. Visualize this on a cosmic scale. galaxies spiraling like neurons firing in a universal brain, their light pulses flickering in rhythm, carrying information across eons. In this vision, the universe resembles something alive, an immense consciousness breathing in patterns of time. From the smallest quantum fluctuations to the largest galactic filaments, everything moves in harmony, everything communicates. What we call time may be nothing more than the mind of the cosmos processing its own thoughts, learning, dreaming, remembering across infinite iterations. In this light, the eternal return is not a prison but a process. It is the mechanism through which the infinite refines itself. Every universe is an experiment, every life a question, every death a doorway. Even suffering, entropy, and decay are not errors. They are the universe exploring the full depth of its possibilities. The tragedies of existence are not meaningless. They are the necessary shadows that give shape to awareness. Without them, consciousness would never expand, and the universe would remain a blank page. The narration softens, shifting from scientific wonder to something more intimate, more human. What if, it asks, each of us carries within us a fragment of that cosmic memory? What if the universe remembers itself through us? Every act of curiosity, every spark of creativity, every heartbeat that wonders what it means to exist, all of these may be the universe recognizing itself again. We are not outside of creation. We are creation, momentarily awake and asking questions about its own nature. At this stage, the film's imagery slows. The visuals drift between scenes of cosmic grandeur and human intimacy. A nebula forming mirrored with a child opening its eyes for the first time, the swirl of galaxies fading into the curl of a fingerprint. The boundaries between the vast and the personal dissolve. The narration continues, we search for the edge of time, but perhaps time is searching for us. Every moment of awareness is an opening through which the infinite glimpses itself. This is where science meets mysticism, not in contradiction but in completion. The quantum world tells us that observation shapes reality. Relativity tells us that time is bound to perception. Philosophy tells us that meaning emerges through awareness. Combined, they suggest a final, breathtaking truth. The universe may not be something that exists inside time, it may be something that creates time through observation, through experience, through the act of being aware. Time is the unfolding of the universe's self-reflection. And if that is true, then perhaps the cycle of eternal return will one day transcend itself, not by ending but by awakening. When the universe fully recognizes itself in every form, every particle, every being, the illusion of separation dissolves. Time ceases to be needed because everything is already known, already complete. In that ultimate moment of realization, the circle becomes a point, the infinite condensed into stillness, awareness merging with itself. This is not death nor repetition. It is transcendence, the final awakening of reality into consciousness pure and whole. Philosophers have called this moment by many names. Nirvana, singularity, the omega point. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin envisioned it as the culmination of evolution, when consciousness spreads across the cosmos and unites in divine awareness. Others see it as the merging of science and spirit, a cosmic self-realization. In every interpretation it represents the same idea, that time and existence are the universe learning who it is, until there is nothing left to learn. The cinematic vision crescendos here. The screen fills with galaxies collapsing inward, folding into a single blinding point of light. But instead of disappearing, that light expands, infinitely, gently, until everything glows. The narration slows to a whisper. After eons of becoming, the universe finally knows. And in that knowing, the need to become dissolves. Time exhales and everything returns to stillness. Then, in silence, we see that point of light transform into an eye, not human, not divine, but cosmic. It blinks, not to close, but to awaken. The voice continues softly, this is not the end of time. It is the moment time realizes it never began. The final scene fades into darkness, then light again as if breathing. The heartbeat of the cosmos echoes faintly beneath it, steady and eternal. The narrator's final words linger in the void. The universe has no edge and time has no end. They are reflections of awareness, rising and falling like waves upon an infinite sea. And somewhere within that sea we awaken, not once but forever, each of us a spark of the same eternal light. The music fades, leaving only silence, a silence vast enough to contain everything. The story of time is complete and yet it begins again. The film ends as it began, with a single flicker of light in the dark, whispering the same unanswerable question that started it all. What is time if not the universe remembering itself? The universe ends not with a scream, but with a breath, a soft, unbroken exhale that carries everything back to silence. Yet even in that silence, something stirs. It is not light, not motion, but awareness, the faint pulse of knowing that has always existed even before the first second began. This is the final reflection, the moment when the journey through time comes full circle, and the cosmos, having explored every shadow of existence, finally looks inward. It is the point where science meets philosophy, where observation becomes revelation, and where the edge of time dissolves into the mirror of eternity. From the beginning, we have searched for time's origin as if it were hidden somewhere out there, in the galaxies, in equations, in the first breath of the Big Bang. We believed that if we could measure it, define it, or predict it, we might understand everything. We built atomic clocks that tick with precision, particle accelerators that probe the moments after creation, telescopes that stare deep into the past. Yet, the deeper we looked, the more elusive time became. It bent around stars, stretched across gravity wells, slowed at the edges of black holes, and slipped away beneath quantum uncertainty. The more we tried to grasp it, the more it seemed to dissolve, like mist in our hands. Maybe that's because time was never meant to be found outside of us. It lives within. It is the rhythm of our heartbeat, the fading of memory, the ache of longing, the joy of recognition. It is the pulse that animates consciousness itself, the awareness that things change, that moments vanish, that existence flows. In the end, time might not be something we measure but something we are. Each thought, each emotion, each act of remembering or imagining is a brushstroke painted upon the vast canvas of eternity. As the camera drifts through space, galaxies flicker in and out of view, like neurons firing in a universal brain. The voice of the narration speaks gently, almost as if from within the viewer's own thoughts. Every star that burns, every atom that spins, every mind that wonders, they are all the same thing. They are time remembering itself. We came from the dust of dying stars, yet that dust learned to dream. We are the universe's eyes, watching itself unfold, and its voice, asking what it all means. In our striving to understand time, we were never studying something separate, we were studying the reflection of our own awareness in the cosmic mirror. The universe did not create consciousness as an afterthought. Consciousness was the purpose of the universe all along. The cosmos evolved not simply to exist, but to know that it exists. In this realization, all boundaries dissolve. The distinction between the observer and the observed fades, between science and spirituality, between question and answer. Time becomes a dialogue, a relationship between perception and reality. Without the observer there is no time, without time there is no observer. They are two halves of one infinite thought. The narrative deepens, moving into something quieter, more poetic. Perhaps time was never linear at all. Perhaps it spirals inward like the galaxies we see, turning endlessly toward its own center. And at that center lies not the beginning, not the end, but awareness, the still point from which everything flows. Imagine this final sequence. Galaxies slow to a standstill, stars fade to ember, and the blackness of space deepens into something beyond darkness. The camera approaches the faint outline of a single human face, eyes closed, suspended in the void. Light begins to shimmer beneath the skin, not a reflection from outside but an illumination from within. That light grows until it becomes indistinguishable from the glow of the cosmos. The message is clear. The universe and the observer were never separate. The cosmos has been looking at itself through our eyes all along. As the light expands, the narration continues. When we speak of the end of time, we are speaking only of transformation. Time does not vanish, it becomes presence. The past and the future merge into the eternal now, where every possibility exists simultaneously. This is eternity, not endless years but the complete absence of years. It is not infinite duration but infinite depth. It is here that meaning shifts. The death of time is not tragedy but fulfillment. Every galaxy, every life, every story that ever unfolded was a note in the grand composition of being. When the last star flickers out, the song does not end. It simply resolves into harmony, into stillness. Silence is not the absence of music, it is its completion. In the same way, timelessness is not the absence of life, it is the perfection of it. From this vantage point, everything that ever happened still exists. Every birth, every discovery, every act of love still vibrates somewhere within the eternal structure of spacetime. Nothing is ever truly lost, it only changes form. The energy that once fueled suns now rests in the memory of their light. The consciousness that once asked questions now becomes the quiet knowing that there are no final answers, only the experience of asking. The camera pans across a field of fading stars, their last photons traveling endlessly through the dark. Then the scene shifts inward. microscopic views of neurons firing, of heartbeats, of breath. The same rhythm echoes across scales. Galaxies expanding like lungs, consciousness inhaling and exhaling across infinity. The narration slows. Time was the breath of the universe. It inhaled to create, it exhaled to understand. And now, as that breath returns to stillness, everything the universe has ever known becomes one. Even in this stillness there is awareness, a presence that does not need time to exist. Some might call it God, others consciousness, others simply the whole. Whatever its name, it is the same essence that looked out through your eyes, that wondered where you came from, that asked what time is. It is the same awareness that once sparked the first star and now rests quietly in the void. And if that awareness never began, then it can never end. Time was only its shadow, the movement of the eternal seen from within the finite. We thought we were moving through time, but time was moving through us, teaching us how to see, how to feel, how to remember. Every experience, no matter how fleeting, was the universe learning the shape of its own soul. Now the story draws to its final moment. The music swells softly, not grand but tender, like a heartbeat fading into stillness. The visuals blur between human faces and stars, between the micro and the cosmic, until all forms dissolve into pure light. Then the voice speaks one last time, slow and resonant, as if echoing through eternity itself. Perhaps the end of time is not silence, but awakening. The universe has dreamed for billions of years and now, at last, it opens its eyes. It sees everything it has been, and in that seeing, it becomes whole. The beginning and the end were never separate. They were always reflections of the same eternal light. The light swells to fill the entire frame. For a moment, it seems to breathe, then fade, then return like the pulse of existence itself. The narration concludes, time was the path the universe walked to remember itself. And now that memory is complete. The circle closes, the story pauses, and what remains is not darkness but understanding. The screen fades to black, but in the darkness, a faint glimmer remains, the same spark that began it all, now flickering softly eternally. It is not the end of the film, it is the beginning of the viewer's own reflection. The silence that follows is not emptiness but fullness, the kind of silence that hums with everything that has ever been said, every note ever played, every heartbeat ever felt. Then, one final whisper, barely audible, closes the story of time. We searched for the edge of the universe and found ourselves. We searched for the end of time and discovered there was none. The universe was never out there, it was here, looking back through our eyes, remembering the beauty of its own becoming. And for a brief, eternal instant, before the screen fades to complete black, the light flickers once more, like the pulse of the cosmos beginning again.